Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Israel and Hamas deadlock ends. Trump says both agree to first phase of Gaza peace plan and hostage release. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to host his UK counterpart Keir Starmer in Mumbai today to hold talks, trade, climate, defence and security on top of the agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the 6th edition of the Global Fintech Fest along with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Mumbai, a global forum for financial policy dialogue and cooperation. The unbeaten Indian women's cricket team will take on South Africa in group stage of the ongoing ICC Women's ODI World Cup. Israel and Hamas agreed on Thursday to the first phase of a Gaza ceasefire aimed at ending the Gaza conflict. The deal to be signed on Thursday includes the release of hostages and prisoners as well as a surge of aid into Gaza after more than 2 years of conflict started by Hamas's unprecedented October 2023 attack on Israel. US President Donald Trump on Wednesday announced that both Israel and Hamas had agreed on the first phase of his Gaza peace plan. Trump in a social media post announced that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable and everlasting peace. Trump also thanked mediators Qatar, Egypt and Turkey, adding, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Trump said earlier that a deal was almost done and that he may travel to Egypt this weekend, possibly leaving as soon as Saturday.
Peace for the Middle East. It's a beautiful phrase and we hope it's going to come true, but it's very close and they're doing very well. We have a great team over there, great negotiators, and they're unfortunately great negotiators on the other side also. But it's something I think that will happen, got a good chance of happening. I may go there sometime toward the end of the week, maybe on Sunday, actually.
Meanwhile, mediators said that Israel and Hamas had reached a deal for a hostage prisoner exchange and aid entry into Gaza. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid Al-Ansari in a social media post said that an agreement was reached on all the provisions and implementation mechanisms of the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire agreement, which will lead to ending the conflict, the release of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners, and the entry of aid. He further added that the details will be announced later. Hamas also confirmed it had reached an agreement to end the conflict, saying the deal includes an Israeli withdrawal from the enclave and a hostage prisoner exchange. Hamas leaders also called on Trump and guarantor states to ensure Israel fully implements the ceasefire. The US president later told the Fox News that hostages held in Gaza will probably be released on Monday. He further said that Gaza will be rebuilt after the completion of the phase 1 of the deal.
We'll be involved in it, but the big thing is hostages are going to be released. It's probably our time would be probably Monday, and you know they're a terrible situation. They're deep in the earth, and they're being gotten, and a lot of things are happening right now. As we speak, so much is happening to get the hostages freed, and we think they'll all be coming back on Monday. So it looks like that's the thing, and that'll include the bodies of the dead.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday said that Israel would bring home all the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza after US President and mediators reported a deal to end the Gaza conflict. Netanyahu in a social media post said that he would convene the government on Thursday to approve the Gaza ceasefire agreement aimed at bringing home all the Israeli hostages. Netanyahu also thanked Israeli troops and US President Donald Trump and his team for their mobilization for this sacred mission of releasing the hostages. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed the Israel-Hamas agreement on the first phase of Trump's Gaza peace plan. The UN chief in a statement added that the United Nations will support the full implementation of the deal as well as increase its delivery of humanitarian aid and advance its reconstruction efforts in Gaza. Guterres also urged all parties to obey the terms of the deal, including releasing Israeli hostages, abiding by a permanent ceasefire, and immediately allowing humanitarian supplies into Gaza. All right, to get us more on this, our correspondent Akshay is joining us. Akshay, we've just given a broad outline of the first phase of Gaza ceasefire. Get us more. How will it be implemented? What could be the duration of its implementation? And how promising does this ceasefire appear?
Well, it appears quite promising this time, Preeti, because, credit where it's due. There have been efforts that have gone into, bringing a ceasefire in this conflict that has claimed so many innocent lives, especially of, the Gazan citizens, the Gazan people, as well as the Israeli people who were, killed on 7th October terror attack that was orchestrated by Hamas. Both the sides, more innocents have died than combat casualties. Clearly, like in every war, in this war as well, common people, innocent people have suffered the most, and it seems that finally that suffering may be brought to an end, especially if the humanitarian supplies are allowed into Gaza by the Israeli authorities. So as far as the implementation and the signing of the ceasefire is concerned, from what we have learned so far, the timing has been set for about 9 a.m. GMT. That will be, according to Indian Standard Time, 2:30 p.m. today on 9th of October. That is the timing for the signing of the ceasefire. And a timeline of about 72 hours has been given to ensure that it starts to be it gets implemented. Now, as far as the deal is concerned, 20 alive 20 alive hostages of Israel will be released by Hamas that were in the captivity of Hamas for the last 2 years in exchange of about 2,000 prisoners. Now, 1,700 are those people who were imprisoned by Israel after the 7th October attack, and then about 250 Palestinian prisoners are those who have been given life imprisonment by the Israeli authorities and are right now in Israeli prison. So it's sort of a bargain that has now been struck. And another term for the ceasefire is that the Israeli Defense Forces will withdraw to a certain line that has been decided by the two parties. And in the next phase, as we move ahead, this is going to be the phase 1. If it gets implemented, if it gets, both the parties ensure that they abide by the rules and, no breaking of the ceasefire takes place by either of the sides, then we can expect a phase 2 to take place very soon. Because it seems that Donald Trump, as well as the U.S. administration, is quite keen on untangling itself from this conflict that has been going on for 2 years, claiming many lives. There always was a risk of this conflict spreading to a wider area.
All right, Akshay, talking of phase 2, now once this phase 1 of the ceasefire deal is implemented, there would be the challenges of rehabilitation of the people there in the enclave. There would be challenges of rebuilding Gaza. Put all this together, what more do we know about it?
Well, as we saw that the terms of ceasefire were being discussed, one of the main one were implementation or rather placing of an international peacekeeping force there that will have troops from different countries. Second was the rebuilding of the entire place, especially the Gazan region that has been constantly bombarded by the Israeli Defense Forces and is now unrecognizable from what it was 2 years back. Now, who are going to be the parties? Who is going to be the key architect of this reconstruction is still unclear. But it seems that U.S. And especially Donald Trump himself being in real estate business, they are quite keen on taking on these contracts as well as the work to rebuild the entire place, especially that has been worst impacted. But besides all of this, that these are sort of things that are going to take place in future. Now, that is that comes much later after all the phases of the ceasefire are complete. Everyone is satisfied. And as far as the ceasefire is concerned, one information that I missed was that this ceasefire and the signing of the deal is going to take place in Egypt. And also another interesting thing, Preeti, is for our viewers is that the crude oil prices fell as far as soon as the deal was agreed to by both the sides, because the sort of war premium that was there on the crude oil and the fears were there of escalation of the conflict. The crude oil escalated, the prices of crude oil escalated once the market realized that the Ukraine and Russia conflict and the talks that were taking place between the two countries have stalled. So the war premium increased on the crude oil. But as soon as this war is now, it appears that it is resolving with the concerted efforts by the entire world, especially by both the parties now agreeing, the crude oil prices are falling. So it may be a good news, not just for the region, but for the rest of the world, especially for Global South, that the conflict will come to an end. And perhaps after that, the supply chain for the rest of the world, especially to the third world countries, the Global South countries will resume, and we can expect a positive outcome now.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those updates. So that was our correspondent, Akshay, explaining to us more about the Gaza ceasefire deal that is believed to end the deadlock between Israel and Hamas. We'll keep you updated. Meanwhile, let's turn focus to other updates. French President Emmanuel Macron will name a new prime minister within the next 48 hours after the resignation of the outgoing premier, Sébastien Lecornu, tipped the country into political crisis. Lecornu said in an interview earlier that he expected a new premier to be named rather than early legislative elections to be called or Macron to resign in a bid to resolve the crisis. Macron had on Monday given Lecornu until Wednesday time to find a way out of the months of deadlock over an austerity budget. Lecornu had resigned on early Monday after less than a month in office in the wake of appointing a pro-Macron cabinet that caused consternation on the right and left. Macron had the options of reappointing Lecornu, naming the 8th premier of his increasingly troubled mandate, calling snappy legislative elections, or even resigning himself. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, U.S. government shutdown enters 8th day as Senate deadlock deepens and travel disruptions continue. Petro claims U.S. bombed Colombian vessel in Caribbean. White House dismisses allegation. Florida police arrest a man on charges of intentionally igniting California's devastating Palisades fire.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you more international updates. The U.S. government remains in shutdown with no resolution in sight after the Senate failed on Wednesday to pass either a Republican or Democratic-backed short-term funding bill. The vote marked the sixth unsuccessful attempt to extend federal funding as the shutdown enters its eighth day. Lawmakers in the Senate rejected a House-passed continuing resolution that would have funded the government through November 21st. The vote was 54 to 45, falling short of the 60 votes needed to advance the legislation. The Senate also rejected the Democrats' version of the funding bill, which included health care provisions. With both proposals failing, Congress remains deadlocked, leaving federal programs and workers in limbo. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump warned this week that furloughed federal workers may not receive back pay once the shutdown ends, diverging sharply from the precedent. He also threatened layoffs and cuts to government programs if the stalemate continues.
How will you decide which workers get back pay and which workers do not?
Well, we're going to see most of them are going to get back pay, and we're going to try and make sure of that. But some of them are being hurt very badly by the Democrats, and they therefore won't qualify.
Now into its second week, the U.S. government shutdown has started impacting federal workers, prompting some to take out new loans to help make ends meet. The first test will come next week when federal workers will start seeing their paychecks affected. But if no deal is reached by the end of this month, federal workers will receive nothing in the following paycheck. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro suggested the latest vessel in the Caribbean bombed by the United States may have been Colombian with Colombian citizens aboard. Meanwhile, the White House rebuffed Petro's comments. U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday announced the latest in a series of military strikes targeting drug trafficking vessels off the coast of Venezuela, although the Pentagon is yet to confirm any such strike happened on Saturday. If verified, Petro's assertion would bring Colombia into the fray of a campaign which had previously targeted Venezuelan boats. There have been at least 4 such strikes in recent weeks, and the Trump administration says 21 people have been killed in the operations. The attacks have inflamed tensions in the region, and Washington called off diplomatic outreach to Venezuela on October 6th. Chilean President Gabriel Boric traveled to the town of Coltrane near the border with Bolivia on Wednesday to launch a new phase of Chile's plan aimed to strengthen Chile's border security through advanced surveillance technology. Boric toured the desert region alongside military officials, inspecting equipment and observing operations. The new phases of Chile's Cifron initiative focuses on techno-surveillance and aerial monitoring using drones, mobile cameras and border observation posts. Launched in 2023, the 5-phase program spans the northern regions of Arica, Parinacota, Tarapacá and Antofagasta with over $13 million of investment. Argentina's lower house approved a bill to curb the use of presidential emergency decrees. Now, the development is a direct challenge to President Javier Milei's executive powers, whose party holds a minority in both the legislative chambers. Milei retains the power to veto the legislation. Lawmakers passed the measure by 140 votes in favor and 80 against, with 17 abstentions. The bill was already cleared by the Senate, but newly voted on modifications to the articles mean it will now return to the upper house. The change would allow the opposition to block decrees with a simple majority in either of the chambers, forcing the administration to seek broader consensus for its agenda. Meanwhile, Argentina is set to hold midterm elections on 26th of October. This will be a key test for Milei, seen as a crucial test for him as he enters the second half of his presidency with limited legislative support. An Argentine court sentenced 2 people to prison for attempting to assassinate Cristina Fernández de Kirchner in 2022 when she was serving as the vice president. Fernando Sabac was sentenced to 10 years and Brenda Hularte to 8 years. The attack on Cristina shocked the nation and drew widespread international condemnation. Cristina is one of Argentina's most prominent political figures of the past 2 decades. She is currently under house arrest in a separate corruption case. Bolivian President Luis Arce has accused members of the country's legislature of attempting a coup against democracy through attempts to suspend the October 19th presidential runoff election, escalating political tensions ahead of the country's first ever second-round vote. The president accused lawmakers of seeking to pass legislation that would extend his term and that of the other officials elected for the 2020 to 2025 period, while also suspending current electoral authorities. Arce also criticized moves to establish a legislative commission to investigate alleged fraud in the first round of voting held on 17th of August, calling it part of the broader effort to undermine the democratic process. On 19th of October, Bolivians will make history by participating in their first presidential runoff election, choosing between opposition candidates centrist Senator Rodrigo Paz and former President Jorge Tuto Corrigo. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa called for resilience against threats on Thursday, a day after attack on his convoy. Noboa stated that he and his team were attacked by vandals while delivering a water treatment plant to help rural communities. He expressed determination to continue risking his life for the people's betterment and emphasized on the resilient spirit of Guayaquil, vowing to never be intimidated or controlled by threats or mafia influences. Noboa's motorcade was attacked with rocks in a rural town on Tuesday. 5 people were detained and Noboa was unharmed in the incident. The government pledged to investigate and prosecute those responsible amid nationwide protests over fuel subsidy cuts. Costa Rica will nominate former Vice President Rebecca Greenspan for United Nations Secretary General post. Greenspan currently serves as Secretary General of the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Her previous roles included leading the Ibero-American General Secretariat and serving as a UN Under-Secretary General and as Associate Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme. Greenspan's nomination follows that of former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet, whose candidacy was announced 2 weeks ago. The United Nations has never been led by a woman. During the General Assembly in late September, several leaders made strong calls for a woman to take the helm when current chief Antonio Guterres of Portugal steps down at the end of 2026. In Mali, motorists lined up at fuel stations in Bamako on Wednesday aimed at amidst closures and fears of a fuel shortage. Now, the shortage was caused by a blockade on fuel imports imposed by Al-Qaeda-linked insurgents last month. Many stations had been forced to close since last week or were able to supply only diesel, a pressure tactic applied on Mali's military-led government. In recent days, Shell, Total and Star stations in central Bamako were out of service, with only a few local stations able to serve motorcyclists. Videos on social media appeared to show long queues in other Malian cities, including Ségou, Mopti and San. A man named Jonathan Rinderknecht was arrested in Florida on Wednesday on charges of intentionally igniting California's devastating Palisades fire. The U.S. Justice Department stated that Rinderknecht started a fire near a Pacific Palisades hiking trail shortly after midnight on January 1st after finishing his driving shift. The Lackman fire, thought to be extinguished by Los Angeles firefighters, smoldered unnoticed underground. The fire reignited on January 7th as the Palisades fire, ultimately burning over 23,000 acres. Federal investigators launched a probe into the fire. Rinderknecht's emergency calls, videos of the fire and conflicting statements during questioning became key evidence in the federal case against him. Meanwhile, Pacific Palisades residents united in seeking more answers, though some felt relieved by the capture. Palisades fire killed 12 people and wiped out a wealthy enclave of Los Angeles at the start of the year. New York City filed a new lawsuit accusing Facebook, Google, Snapchat, TikTok and other online platforms of fueling a mental health crisis among children by addicting them to social media. A 327-page complaint in Manhattan federal court seeks damages from Facebook and Instagram owner Meta Platforms, Google and YouTube owner Alphabet, Snapchat owner Snap and TikTok owner ByteDance. It accuses the defendants of gross negligence and causing a public nuisance. The city joined other governments, school districts and individuals pursuing approximately 2,050 similar lawsuits in nationwide litigation in the Oakland, California federal court. Google spokesperson Jose Castaneda said allegations concerning YouTube are simply not true, in part because it is a streaming service. In other news, European Union chief Ursula von der Leyen faces 2 confidence votes on Thursday in the European Parliament, challenges that pose no serious threat to her leadership but underscore the tensions ruling the Assembly. The 2 motions of censure against von der Leyen were brought by the hard left and far right, which accuse her European Commission of a lack of transparency and reject her trade policies. But while the motions are widely expected to fail, they reflect mounting discontent with von der Leyen's leadership and will test the cohesion of the coalition led by her conservative European People's Party. Von der Leyen survived a previous far-right attempt to unseat her in July, but the vote opened the door for allies in von der Leyen's so-called pro-European camp to air their own grievances. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. In Vietnam, a new campaign called Libraries of Joy is bringing the world of books closer to the children in remote and flood-affected areas. Launched under the V Concert and V Fest programs, the initiative builds colorful community libraries that inspire a love for reading and create happy learning spaces for children. In Turkey, a 17-meter-long fin whale that died in 2021 after a ship collision is now being unearthed for scientific study. The project, called The Silence of the Whale Turns into Science, aims to preserve and study the skeleton, making it the first marine animal excavation of its kind in the country. An old woman out for morning walk was attacked by a bear in northern Japan on Wednesday. The incident occurred in a residential area. She suffered scratches to her face and was taken to hospital. Bear attacks have taken place in other parts of Japan as well in recent days. Families celebrated the full moon during Mid-Autumn Festival in China. Jilin lit up with lanterns, performances and molten iron fireworks, while Suzhou's East Taihu Lake featured a colorful fountain show under the rising moon, blending tradition with modern festivities. A 30-year-old lantern shop in Guangzhou has become a favorite during the Mid-Autumn Festival, offering traditional goldfish and fruit lanterns along with new animal-themed designs for children. Families flock to admire and buy the handcrafted lanterns, celebrating the full moon, sharing moon cakes and keeping the decades-old craft alive. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, aimed at strengthening defence and strategic cooperation, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh meets Australian leadership. Iran and UK film co-producers rejoice over the announcement of 3 Bollywood productions coming to London. On October 9th every year, the Indian Army's Territorial Army celebrates Territorial Army Day, marking the raising of the unique organisation.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium, we'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories now. Israel and Hamas deadlock ends. Trump says both agreed to first phase of Gaza peace plan and hostage release. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to host his UK counterpart Keir Starmer in Mumbai today to hold talks, trade, climate, defence and security on top of the agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the 6th edition of the Global Fintech Fest along with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Mumbai, a global forum for financial policy dialogue and cooperation. The unbeaten Indian women's cricket team will take on South Africa in the group stage of the ongoing ICC Women's ODI World Cup. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in Mumbai for a landmark two-day visit to India, leading a big 125-member trade delegation. Mumbai gave a special welcome to Prime Minister Starmer. The visit further strengthens the UK-India partnership following the July 2025 trade deal, focusing on trade, technology, defence and innovation, aiming to boost economic growth and deepen strategic ties between both the nations. We get you a detailed report.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in India for a two-day visit. He's leading a big 125-member team. This is his first visit since becoming UK PM. The trip builds on the new UK-India trade deal signed in July 2025, which cuts tariffs and creates more business opportunities in both the countries. Before the visit, Starmer called the deal a launchpad for growth, intending to strengthen business and strategic ties with India. On Thursday, PM Starmer and PM Narendra Modi will review progress under the UK-India Strategic Partnership and Vision 2030 plan. They will focus on trade, technology, defense, energy, health and education. Later, both leaders will attend the CEO Forum and speak at the Global Fintech Fest in Mumbai. The event focuses on using AI and innovation in finance and will host over 100,000 people from 75 plus countries. India and the UK share strong economic ties with a shared goal of faster economic growth and closer cooperation. India-UK Free Trade Agreement signed to boost trade and reduce tariffs. FTA offers zero duty access on 99% of tariff lines for Indian exports. UK's GDP expected to rise £4.8 billion annually due to the FTA. Tariffs on UK whiskey and cars to reduce gradually over 10 years. India-UK Joint Economic and Trade Committee drives trade and investment cooperation. Defence cooperation includes joint military exercises and technology sharing. UK is India's sixth largest investor with over $35 billion invested. Indian diaspora in UK employs 174,000 and owns 65,000 companies. Education ties include 170,000 Indian students in UK and new university campuses planned. Migration partnership enables easier professional movement between India and UK. The UK-India partnership is entering a new era of growth and collaboration. With strong trade ties, defense cooperation, and people-to-people connections, both nations are set to deepen economic, strategic, and cultural bonds, building a prosperous future together for decades to come. Mohammad Absarul Hassan for DD India.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and Peter Keir, the UK Secretary of State for Business and Trade, held a meeting in Mumbai to chart a renewed course of the India-UK trade and investment partnership. The meeting marked a significant step towards operationalizing the India-UK Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, with both the ministers agreeing to reposition the Joint Economic and Trade Committee to oversee its implementation and delivery. Both sides underlined their commitment to ensuring swift, coordinated and result-oriented implementation of the agreement. The ministers reaffirmed their shared ambition to double the bilateral trade by 2030. Ahead of the meeting, a series of sectoral roundtables were held across priority sectors, including advanced manufacturing, consumer goods, food and drink, science, technology and innovation, construction, infrastructure and clean energy, and financial, professional and business services. The India-UK CEO Forum was also held, bringing together business leaders from both countries to discuss new opportunities for trade, investment and innovation. Our correspondent Shama Mishra is joining us from Mumbai to get us more. Shama, good morning. British Prime Minister, in fact, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in India, and Prime Minister will be hosting him in Mumbai today. Get us the details of the day ahead for both the leaders.
Well, Preeti, for starters, we are here at Raj Bhavan, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be welcoming the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer here, and both the leaders would be having a handshake first, and then they'll be moving towards a place where they'll be hosting the delegation, and they'll be having the delegation level talks. After that, we are understanding that there'll be joint statement from both the leaders, and there'll be lunch as well. After that, they would be moving towards the venue of the Global Fintech Fest, which is the 6th edition here in Mumbai. And we understand that this is the largest, convergence or largest festival of fintech here in India. Here in Raj Bhavan, when we are talking about the delegation level talks, you've already mentioned, that the British Prime Minister, he was here in Mumbai yesterday, and he had several meetings with industry leaders here in India. The Indian side and the UK side both have come together and collaborated, and had several fruitful meetings. It's on different and varied subjects, and this is just another chapter, another episode in the books of the pact that our Prime Minister in July he had signed. Both the leaders had signed rather. So we could say that this is one chapter ahead, and British Prime Minister he has come over here and taking this next level ahead. Here, when we are talking about various subjects or various topics, we understand that food and drinks, automobiles, education, defense, these are the various subjects, various topics, areas of understanding where these two countries would be having a combined talk, combined meeting, and because it's also GFF, so we understand that the fintech or the DPI of India, that will be also discussed at large. Even at the GFF, we are told that there will be a CEO roundtable conference wherein both the leaders would be present, and there will be several other CEOs from various companies. So you can understand how big this particular visit of UK Prime Minister is. We are also told that yesterday, when UK Prime Minister he had come in Mumbai, he had also visited the Yash Raj studios here in Mumbai, and after that he had given a statement that 3 major films from the Yash Raj film production or the studio will be produced or will be made in the UK starting the new year, which is 2026. So budget-wise, the employment-wise, opportunities-wise, this is huge for UK, and everybody knows that India is the largest consumer market in the world. So everybody would be wanting, to come together and have pacts with India, economic ties with India. Even for India, it is important, this particular partnership, because we have all seen, the world has seen the US tariff issues, and that is why any country affected by these issues will have to look for newer markets, and UK with the partnership is just another direction, just another area in that direction, in that particular direction. So India and the Indian goods will also have newer avenues, newer ways to explore, to sell their products at a much cheaper rate, at a much lesser duty, and vice versa for the UK products as well. In the July Pact, we had seen that a lot of products had come under these particular pacts, where the prices or the duties have been reduced significantly or cut to zero completely. In this, we can understand the automobile sector will largely benefit here in India, and Indians can in future buy cheaper UK made cars and that will be available at at ease. It will be accessible at a much cheaper rate here for Indians. Apart from that, we are understanding that food and drinks, beverages, these are also sectors where the UK has had the duties reduced, and that is how they will expand their markets here in India. For India, we understand that employment-wise, job opportunity-wise, UK is a great market. It is a great place for skilled manpower, and UK would also be looking at that to take our skilled manpower, to take our skilled human resource to their place and give the employment opportunities. For Indian products as well, fisheries, other agricultural related products, India would be looking at newer avenues because because of the US tariffs, Indian markets and Indian products were hit, and the Indian companies were hit. So Indian companies would be really keenly watching this particular visit of the UK Prime Minister, and because he has gotten such a large delegation, universities, CEOs of different companies, the government officials,
Right.
It's a large delegation, and that is how it is seen a very important visit of the UK Prime Minister to India, and the Indian area as well is going to largely benefit from it. Lastly, I'll quickly come to the GFF point, where the CEO roundtable conference would be happening, roundtable meeting would be happening, and after that, both the leaders would be addressing the 6th edition of the Global Fintech Fest. Remember, this is the last day of the 3-day conference of the Global Fintech, and we have been reading, reporting that various initiatives under the fintech, the financial technology of India, it is being showcased here at this platform, and the world is seeing it, how India is progressing it, and the world is taking note. For example, UPI, many countries are now really emphasizing that they want this particular system in their country as well, to be replicated in their country as well. And India, for that matter, during the G20 leadership, had kept the entire source open. Anybody can come and learn, and then they can make their own platform, or they can make their own system, just like the UPI. So the world is largely going to benefit it, and for now, the UK is going to largely benefit from this visit. Also, India would be benefiting and because we know for the fact that both sides would be benefiting from this pact. So a very important visit of the UK Prime
Yes.
Minister here in India, and a very important gesture from our Indian Prime Minister to host him here in Mumbai.
All right, Shama, we leave it here. That was our correspondent, Shama Mishra, joining us from Mumbai, explaining to us in detail what could be expected as both the leaders today meet in Mumbai. We'll keep you updated once the meetings begin. Also, Yash Raj Film, India's leading film production and distribution company, have confirmed plans to bring their 3 major productions to locations across the United Kingdom from early 2026. To mark the announcement, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer visited Yash Raj Studios in Mumbai on Wednesday, alongside a delegation of some of Britain's biggest names in films, including the British Film Institute, the British Film Commission, Pinewood Studios, Elstree Studios and Civic Studios. Yash Raj's studio completed 20 years of operations in India on 12th of October. India is the largest producer of films in the world, and Yash Raj's commitment follows an 8-year hiatus from filming in the UK, showcasing the impact the UK-India trade deal is already having. The British Film Institute on Wednesday hailed the pact agreed with the National Film Development Corporation during Prime Minister Keir Starmer's visit to Mumbai on Wednesday.
It's great news. I mean, there's actually a long history of Indian and UK co-productions of Bollywood shooting movies in London. It's always been a backdrop, London and the UK, for Bollywood movies. So the Prime Minister's there. I think he was at Yash Raj Studios earlier today. He's announced 3 Bollywood productions are coming to London. We have an independent film tax credit, which we really want co-productions to make use of, and we're a great co-producer with India, so I think it will fall under that.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer lit diyas in Mumbai on Wednesday, symbolizing the deep cultural ties between India and the United Kingdom as the Diwali festival approaches. The lighting of diyas came as part of Starmer's first official visit to India, marking an important milestone in the India-UK relations. The UK Prime Minister and legendary footballer Michael Owen visited Mumbai's Corporate Football Ground on Wednesday and interacted with young Indian footballers and a few coaches during the Premier League Community Showcase event that focuses on Community Coach Development Programme, a collaboration between the English Premier League and the British Council that aims to expand access to the sport for social groups across India. All right, changing track to other news. Now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is on an Australia visit aimed at strengthening defence and strategic cooperation between the two nations. The minister met his Australian counterpart, Richard Marles, where both the leaders reviewed the full spectrum of India-Australia defence cooperation, including defence industry, cyber defence, maritime security and regional challenges. Also reaffirmed the importance of comprehensive strategic partnership. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh highlighted the rapid growth of India's defence industry and India's growing stature as a credible source of high-quality defence tech globally. He also thanked Australia for its steadfast support on cross-border terrorism and shared regional stability. During his visit, Rajnath Singh was welcomed by Australia's Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles at the Parliament House in Canberra. A welcome to country smoke ceremony was also held at the Australian Parliament to honour and welcome Rajnath Singh. The ceremony was part of a reconciliation process as it acknowledges the traditional ownership of the land and involves Aboriginal Australians in events that take place on their traditional lands. Earlier, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was on board KC-30A Australian Air Force multi-role tanker transport aircraft. He witnessed the air-to-air refuelling of F-35 while travelling from Sydney to Canberra. India and Australia had signed an agreement allowing the Royal Australian Air Force and the Indian Armed Forces to conduct air-to-air refuelling in 2024. In a landmark achievement for the nation, India has been conferred with the prestigious International Social Security Association Award 2025 for outstanding achievement in social security. Now, this award is recognition of the substantial increase in social security coverage from 19% to over 64% in the last decade. The award was presented at the World Social Security Forum held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Union Minister for Labour and Employment and Youth Affairs and Sports, Mansukh Mandavia, received the award on behalf of the Government of India. Following this achievement, India has also secured the highest representation in the ISSA General Assembly with 30 seats. Now, this is the highest vote share for any country. India has become only the 5th nation to receive this triennial award since its inception in 2013. The 76th Raising Day of the Territorial Army of India is being celebrated today. It was on October 9th in 1949 that its formal inauguration was done by first Governor-General C. Rajagopalachari. But did you know the significance of this day? What is the Territorial Army and the role it plays? We'll tell you in this report. The 76th Raising Day of the Territorial Army of India is being celebrated today. It was on October 9th in 1949 that its formal inauguration was done by the first Governor-General C. Rajagopalachari. But did you know the significance of this day? What is the Territorial Army and the role it plays? We'll tell you about that here. First up, what is the Territorial Army? The Territorial Army, also known as the Terriers, is considered the second line of national defence after the regular army. It comprises of citizens who hold full-time civilian jobs, but when the nation calls, they trade their suit for the camouflage. At present, the Territorial Army has approximately 50,000 personnel comprising of 65 departmental and non-departmental units with presence across the country. So how, why and when was the Territorial Army formed? The Territorial Army in its present form came into existence on 18th of August 1948 after the enactment of the Territorial Army Act. C. Rajagopalachari, India's first Governor-General, formally launched the Territorial Army on 19th October 1949. Since then, the day has been celebrated and recognized as the Territorial Army Raising Day. But the idea of forming the Territorial Army came before India's independence. On August 27, 1920, Sir Charles Monro, Commander-in-Chief of the Army in India, introduced a bill in the Indian Legislative Council for the formation of an Indian Territorial Army, which was duly passed. In his statement of objects and reasons, he stated that the Indian Defence Force 1917 was merely an experimental measure due to the shortage of the trained personnel and the heavy demands on the regular army. The Indian Territorial Army was intended to form a second line of defence to the regular army. Moving on to the role played by the Territorial Army. The Territorial Army plays a crucial role in relieving the regular army from static duties, assisting civil administration during natural calamities, and providing units for the regular army when needed. Territorial Army units have provided active service in the Northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, and on India's western and northern borders. The force was also part of the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka from 29th of July 1987 to 24th of March 1990. Full of valor, sacrifice, and commitment, this is a force to reckon with. This is the Indian Territorial Army. And now we take a look at some business updates. We'll talk of the action for the markets first. Asian stock markets resumed their ascent on Thursday as investors doubled down on all things AI related, while gold held atop $4,000 and the dollar retained its recent hefty gains. Oil prices dipped as geopolitical tensions eased a little on news that Israel and Hamas had agreed to the first phase of a ceasefire plan to end the two-year conflict. In equity markets, a resumption of the bull run in AI-related tech saw the S&P 500 and Nasdaq reach record highs as funds were again rewarded for buying the dips. Earnings overall are expected to grow 8% for the third quarter, with revenue up 6.3%. Stocks in Taiwan climbed 1.2% to a fresh record, while MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan firmed 0.3%. Indian Railways has hit a major milestone, utilizing 56.5% of its capital budget by September 2025, the highest ever mid-year. That's 1.4 lakh crore rupees already spent out of the 2.52 lakh crore rupees. There was a big push on safety, new tracks, better stations and modern trains. From expanding coverage to upgrading passenger amenities, the Railways is clearly on the fast track to transformation under the PM Gati Shakti plan. On to sports updates, the unbeaten Indian women's cricket team will take on South Africa in the group stage of the ongoing ICC Women's ODI World Cup on Thursday. In their last match, Harleen Deol and Richa Ghosh's batting blitz, along with Kriti Gaur's 3-wicket haul, proved how balanced the Indian team is. After crushing New Zealand in their recent encounter, thanks to Tasneem Britt's ton, South Africa have also found their rhythm. India sit comfortably at the second spot in the points table with 2 consecutive victories. Meanwhile, the Proteas are placed at the 5th position with 1 win and 1 loss. The top 4 teams at the end of the group stage will qualify for the semi-finals. In other updates, the 2025 winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature will be announced on Thursday. The Nobel Prize in Literature is a literary award for authors whose work demonstrates excellence and whose career represents a significant journey in literature, with past laureates like Rabindranath Tagore and Hank Kang showcasing diverse literary paths. Here's more about the journey of this prestigious prize. Take a look.
Words have the power to outlive time. They can inspire revolutions, heal wounds, and open doors to worlds unseen. It is the extraordinary power of words that the Nobel Prize in Literature celebrates. A recognition given not just to writers, but to storytellers who shape the way humanity understands itself. The Nobel Prize in Literature, first awarded in 1901, has since become one of the most prestigious honors in the literary world. From poets to novelists, playwrights to essayists, the prize recognizes those who transform language into an art that resonates across generations and cultures. The Nobel Prize in Literature has been presented 117 times, honoring a total of 121 laureates from 1901 to 2024. The journey started in 1901 with Sully Prudhomme, the French poet and essayist who became the very first laureate. Since then, the Nobel Prize in Literature has honored some of the greatest literary figures in history. In 1913, Rabindranath Tagore placed India on the global literary map with his profoundly spiritual poetry. A decade later, in 1923, William Butler Yeats gave voice to the spirit of Ireland, and in 1948, T.S. Eliot was recognized for works that transformed the landscape of modern poetry. Over the years, the Nobel Prize in Literature has honored not just artistic brilliance but also voices that sparked change. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, through the magic of 100 Years of Solitude, gave life to the struggles and aspirations of Latin America. Nadine Gordimer and Toni Morrison illuminated the harsh realities of racism, injustice, and resilience, using their words as powerful reflections of society itself. In recent years, the tradition continues with remarkable voices. In 2022, Annie Ernaux of France was honored with the Nobel Prize for her fearless writing on memory and identity, especially from women's perspective. The story of the Nobel Prize begins with Alfred Nobel, a Swedish chemist, engineer, and inventor best known for inventing dynamite. On 27 November 1895, just a year before his death, he signed his final will in Paris, dedicating most of his fortune to creating prizes that would recognize those whose work brought the greatest benefit to humanity. Alfred Nobel established 5 original categories: physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. The inaugural Nobel Prizes were awarded on 10th December 1901, commemorating the anniversary of his death. While most ceremonies were held in Stockholm, Sweden, the Peace Prize has always been presented in Oslo, Norway, a tradition that continues to this day. On October 9, 2025, the world will once again witness history as the Nobel Prize in Literature is announced. A new voice will be added to the chorus of great writers who have shaped our understanding of humanity through words. As we await the next laureate, one thing remains certain: the Nobel Prize in Literature is not just about honoring writers, but about celebrating the timeless power of stories to move hearts, challenge minds, and connect the world.
All right, with that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.